In this lesson, we're going to talk about inventory accuracy. We're going to start off with ABC analysis, classification, and assignment group. We're going to define a cycle count, talk about the physical inventory, adjustments and approvals, explain inventory accuracy reports, and implementation considerations. So let's start with the big picture. Within the system, you can leverage the ABC analysis to help you stratify your materials to do your cycle counting. We try to do cycle counting so we don't have to do physical inventories, although physical inventories do have their place. Generally, we like to use the cycle count, have a certain level of accuracy so we don't have to do the wall-to-wall at year end, so we can verify what we've got on hand. The system is real flexible too. You can use handheld devices. You can use the file-based data importer at BDI and leverage that to do your cycle count. You can also use the cycle count interface with the application development framework desktop integrator, or ADFDI. Plus there's the new mobile interface, which you can use on your phone or a tablet. So what is ABC analysis? Generally speaking, we use the ABC analysis to stratify our material based on certain criteria. So the higher the importance or the higher the value, the more control we want to have, the more often we want to do cycle counts on it to make sure that our inventory is accurate. We could base it on the item cost. We can do it on transactions. There's a couple other ways you can stratify it if you want to do things like on cycle counts or things that have been adjusted. But generally speaking, we want to make sure that we count all of our parts at least once a year. The things that we need to control more, then we're going to do them a little more often. So let's go in and look at setting up and running the ABC analysis, creating the group, doing the criteria, and the assignment. Now let's look at setting up the cycle count itself. So here's a flow of the cycle count being scheduled, count the inventory items. If you find discrepancies, go back and do recounts, figure out what happened. You can reject the counts. If there is a discrepancy that is outside of what your business has established as acceptable, either dollar amount or quantities, then somebody can, once all the investigation's been done and the possible recount, you can approve the counts. When you approve it, then the system will do an adjustment to either increase or decrease the quantity on hand, and dollar amount in whatever you defined as your cycle count adjustment account will take the second entry for accounting purposes. So the debit or credit that. So this is a depiction of defining a cycle count in the classic UI. I'm going to demo the Redwood UI so you get exposed to both. First step is what we looked at before, creating the ABC classes, the classification, the assignment, and then we can define our cycle count. Two basic ways to do that. You can do it against an item category, or you can just say, count everything in this particular sub-inventory and all of its locators. So name and description need to be in there. Where are you going to count? You're going to count all of your orgs or all of your sub-inventories within your org. Which ones are you specifically going to count? Maybe there are certain ones you don't need to count. Associate your ABC group to the cycle count, how you want to do the synchronization. So this controls how the ABC classes and items included in the cycle count are synchronized with the ABC group. When the mode is complete, the ABC classes and the items included in the cycle count are completely synchronized with the classes and the items in the ABC group. When the mode is has a pending changes, then only then changes will be applied. You can synchronize ABC association optionally, and it will update the current ABC classes associated with the item as per the ABC group, enabling the cycle count by category. When you check that checkbox, you create a cycle count and assign items to the count based on existing categories. This provides you a quick way to assign items to a cycle count based on grouping of specific or common attributes. And you can have more than one cycle count within an org. You can delete additional items. That will allow you to not include certain items that have been deleted. When you define your classes and your items, you add the ABC classes and the underlying items that are associated to the different classes to the cycle count. You can define the count frequency, how often you want to count each class. So generally, Everything needs to be counted once a year, unless you're some industries, you don't have to do that. But your A's, you do usually 12 times a year, your B's once a quarter, and your C's once a year. You can also define a hit and miss percentage, and this is used as a basis for analyzing or evaluating the inventory accuracy. If the deviation is between the recorded quantity and the system quantity is within range specified, then the count sequence is classified as a hit. The higher the number of hits indicates the inventory accuracy. So you can give yourself a little grace, especially on some of those C items where you weigh them when they come in, and plus or minus 5 is totally acceptable. That's why I spend $15 trying to manage 5. Checkbox to include in schedule options, which will include an item for auto scheduling. The generate count schedule program considers the items marked for auto scheduling, creates count schedules if they are due for count as per the frequency defined. You can mark something to be included in the schedule. There's also the ability to add things manually. You can define schedules and the approval. So in this step, the frequency of the schedule, do you want to do things once a period, once a week, daily? Again, whatever makes good business sense. And the system will generate the counts. Basically what it does, it takes the number of items assigned to the class or the number of times you want to count it and divides it by the number of working days. And then it rounds it up to the next highest integer. So here's an example of what that looks like. So there are 131 Class A items to be counted 52 times a year, and there are 258 working days in the year. So the system will take the 131 times 52 divided by 258, which will give it 26.4. So it'll round it up to 27, and so on for the Class Bs and the Class Cs. So this kind of gives you an idea of what the math looks like. So the calendar, you can use your operations calendar, or you can create a new calendar. Working with a client that was basically running 24/7, 365. They only wanted to do counts 5 days a week on day shift. So created a cycle count schedule or calendar that reflected that. And they used that for the cycle count. That way it only schedule counts on the weekdays. And you can put in the last schedule date and the next schedule date. The system will generate for you. Approvals allow you to manage the approval level. You can stipulate that. You can set up the tolerances either for the whole cycle count, or you can do it at the ABC class level, if that makes sense. You can set up maximum days before late. So you can put 1 day in there. It'll give you a little bit of grace. If something happens, auto recount. So if something is out of spec, go back and recount it. Manual counts. I kind of like that, because if you have something that is, you discover something is amiss, you want to add it to the cycle count rather than doing some kind of a miscellaneous transaction. Remember, a cycle count adjustment is an approved way to do inventory adjustments. Miscellaneous transactions may not be your best if you're ever going to be audited. And display the suggested quantities. I always check that checkbox in the demos, but if you don't check it, then it's a blind count, and make sure people will verify it. You also have some flexibility on your serial numbers. You can say, I want to confirm every serial number, yes, no. Or you can say you don't need to do that. You can also decide how you manage discrepancies with the serial numbers. And there's a place for count accuracy. You can put in a % deviation range. There's also a functionality to purge the old cycle counts out. So you can do that maybe when you re-up them, or every quarter, however often you rerun your cycle counts, you can purge the old ones out. And is supported by the REST services. So you can do your counts with the REST service. So let's go take a peek. We'll create a cycle count, and then we'll do some counts, and maybe even a test one or two. Next up, let's talk about physical inventories. Generally, a physical inventory is a wall-to-wall count of your part corresponding to year end, to make sure that when the auditors come in, they can confirm your inventory accuracy so you can pay taxes. Historically, this is one of my least favorite activities, because I would count parts. Once I started counting, my brain would start working on something else. I'd get to the end and go, how many was that? So 3 times. I submit to you the cycle count is much better, because you have people that are familiar with parts and how things are packaged. Most of the time, if you have to close down, a lot of times you do them over the weekend. Half the people, the only reason they're there is for the overtime, donuts and pizza. So cycle count is a much better way to manage this process. Enough of me opining. Where physical inventory is really good is if you're confirming that material is there. Maybe when you first take something over, when you first set something up in a sub-inventory, you want to just confirm the counts by creating the tags, making sure that you have captured everything that is there. Then you have an official process to capture that and make sure that the on-hand is into the system accurately. Approvals and discounts, if something's off, you can send somebody back out to double check it. You can cancel tags, you can print tags, you can push it out to handheld devices. Once you're done with the physical inventory, everybody's happy, you can purge the information out of the system if that makes good business sense. Along with all these fun things are some reports. So our cycle count report listing, it shows all of the important details about the counts, recounts, the physical inventory tags. Again, you can print those out. You can have a report that lists all of them, everything. You get close to the end and there's missing tags. You can run that report to see what's missing. Got a report for showing all of the physical inventory tags. So you've got the tools to keep track of everything. So we've looked at the ABC analysis and groups, defining a cycle count. Physical inventory, I demonstrated the count adjustment and approvals, explained how to use the reports, or at least explained that there are reports you can use, and things to consider when you're doing your implementation. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next lesson. So to get to the ABC analysis, we need to set up in maintenance. And we're in manufacturing supply chain. We can click on inventory management or simply come up to the search task, click the ABC. So classic view, manage classes, classifications, assign groups, inventory ABC analysis. So let's open that up. And we need to change our org. I guess it's going to Atlanta. So at the moment, there's nothing set up. So let's go into ABC classes and we'll create a class. I can see how poorly I type. And then down here at the bottom is the save and close, save next. And do class B. Go down, save next. Class C. Sounds like a bunch of different kind of RVs. And then we'll do save and close because that's the last one we need. So there's our three classes. We go to class ABC classification set. We'll create classification set. So here's where you can pause for a moment and say, maybe my name for this should be based on my criteria. Item cost, current on-hand quantity, current on-hand value, historical number of transactions, historical usage quantity. So these two are like velocity of the items, historical usage value. So how many transactions, how much quantity we're moving to based on value, based on the velocity. And then down here at the bottom, previous adjustment quantity, previous adjustment value. If you have problem children, they keep popping up. Reason this is a couple of good options down here at the bottom. So let's just do current on-hand value. Not sure if that'll copy and paste, but are we going to do the whole org or are we going to focus on a sub-inventory? I'm just going to do the whole org. And if I go sub-inventory here, or then I can choose my valuation scope. Do I want to do it against the whole org or just a sub-inventory? Let's go flip this back to org. Current on hand, click submit, and it should go in and generate ABC analysis stratification based on what I just chose. If you want, you can go into processes and watch this, which I ran pretty quick. I just clicked on the magnifying glass and it popped in. So if I click on the link, it'll show me the stratification of the items. So lots and lots of parts. Scroll back up. Note to self, sometimes you'll see a cancel button upper right or the back arrow to go back. In the redwood, that is. Over here under actions, create the ABC assignment group, resubmit. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on the tab at the bottom. Move over here. I could have created it from there. Doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Click the create. There we go. Current on hand, classification set, current on hand, org, add my 3 classes. Number 2 is going to be the bees. Check the itty bitty checkbox, or check mark, I guess in this case. Class C. And under the action tab, let you get in there and edit it, I guess. Click on continue. Assign criteria, so I can do my cutoff based on number, inventory value, percent valuation. So if I come in here, click on the show me 60% of my value, so that's about half my parts, to 75%. I'm going to tweak this. Let's go 70%. All right, that's a little better. 70%, 17. You're going to play with it, see what makes sense. 25 parts there, 75%, 500. All right. So 80% of my value parts. Looks like I have some parts in there that don't have any dollars associated to them. And strangely enough, maybe we have some negative values in there. Don't know. That's a possibility too. Hit submit. Again, if you want to go watch the schedule processes, you can. I'm going to go ahead and pause this for a moment and let it run. Now that that's finished, I can click on this and go to the updates. So if I need to move something around after I look at this, there's my A's, my B's. We're scrolling. Someplace down below, there's the C's. You don't need to watch me scroll. If I click on the edit, I can go in and make my updates. And I can add items as well.